Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Gopi Chanavallabha, Jaya Girivardhari, Jaya Girivardhari, Yashodhanandana Vrajaranjana, Jamunatiravanachari, Jai Radha Madhava, Jai Kunja Bihari, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Radha Radhanata, Radha Radhanata, Radhe, Jaya Girivardhan, 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 Jaya Girivardhan, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Shila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramhamsa Privaracharya Sutasara. Shila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramhamsa Privaracharya Sutasara. Shila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Namacharya Shila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai. Shri Giri Raj Govardhan ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So today we'll be reading from the light of the Bhagavad. We're carrying on with this seminar, and we're on text 38. So it goes as follows. 38. After the rainy season, the farmers begin to rebuild their partitioning wall of the paddy fields so that the water will be conserved just as yogis try to use their conserved energy for self-realization. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The living being is the marginal energy of the absolute personality of Godhead, and he can spend his conserved energy either externally or internally. When spent internally, the energy is identified with the internal energy of the personality of Godhead. But the same conserved energy, when spent for his external energy, is identified with that external energy. All energies, internal, external, and marginal, are emanations from him, the Supreme, and they act differently to prove diversity in unity. The unity is the Lord, and the energies present represent diversity. The Lord is so powerful that he can do anything and everything merely by his sweet will alone. So, as mentioned above, everything is done by his energies in a natural way with full knowledge and complete perfection. That is the informal we have from the Vedic, that is the information that we have from the Vedic literatures. The internal energy and the marginal energy are of the same superior quality, but the external energy is inferior in quality. That is the information we have from Bhagavad Gita. Because the living entity is classified as a marginal energy and is one of the same quality as the internal energy, it is quite natural for him to cooperate with the internal energy. But when the living entity prefers to cooperate with the external energy, he is put into difficulty by the process called pratyahara, diversion. Yoga diverts our energy from the external to the internal. The energy of our senses are meant to be diverted, not stopped. The senses are to be purified so that they serve the Lord instead of disturbing his settled harmony. The entire cosmic harmony is a settled fact by the will of the Supreme. So we must find the Supreme will in every action of the cosmic situation. That is the instruction of the Upanishad. Human life is an opportunity to understand this cosmic harmony, and therefore our conserved energy, which is likened to conserved water in the paddy field, must be used for this purpose only. As there is no chance of rain from the sky in autumn, we shall not immediately have the chance to get a human body again if we spend our conserved energy for sense enjoyment. The senses have their utility for the service of the Lord, and if properly engaged, they can reach the highest perfection by being directly engaged in the service of the Lord and his personal presence. When the living entity thus goes back home, back to Godhead, and engages in the personal service of the Lord, he is said to have attained Samadhi Parama, Samsiddhi Parama, the highest perfection. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Dati Swapadantikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namaste. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vanchakalpatarubhescha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacham Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So we see that in this analogy Prabhupada is giving us, that's how the energies are being conserved, right? Like in the paddy field, there are different sections, and each energy is conserved by the walls that are built, right? So similarly, he says that the human energy should be directed so that it is conserved and it can be used to its fullest extent in God realization or self-realization. So let's try to dissect these different energies and see what we come up with, right? So we are speaking about the internal energy, the external energy, and the marginal energy. The internal energy of the Antaranga Shakti is depicted by Srimati Radharani. The external energy of the Bahiranga Shakti is depicted by Durga Devi, and the marginal energy comprises of the living entities, that's you and I. So we can fall either in either categories, either the external energy or the internal energy. And we see that most people in this world are in the category of the Lord's external energy, where they think that the body to be the self. The whole world is under the spell of the Lord's illusory energy or the external potency, the Bahiranga Shakti. So the analogy can be given to actually just put everything in perspective. In that, a man in the asylum, he is thinking, that he is the president of the country, right? And then somebody else is thinking he's the best cricketer. Somebody else is thinking he's this and he's that, right? So, but they are not, because they are mentally challenged, and they are not these things that they are thinking, right? So why are they thinking like this? Because they do not know who they are, right? So similarly, dear devotees, we are in the same predicament in this material world. We do not know who we are. We think that we are the body, but we are not the body. Everyone is under this false notion that I am the body. So don't you think that we are all in the asylum of this material world, the madhouse of this material world? We are trying to enjoy our senses, thinking that this will give us happiness, but no satisfaction. Why? Because we are hovering on the mental plane, on the bodily plane, on the so-called intellectual plane, but we do not know who we are. What a shame that is, right? But Krishna consciousness, it takes us out of this madness and situates us on the path back where we really belong, right? So this world is not for us, right? It's a madhouse. Ordinarily, would you like to go and live in an asylum? No, no sane man would want to go and live in an asylum. But we are here and we do not even question, what am I doing here? Who am I? What is my purpose in life? Only very few will have would have asked these questions. And sure enough, the Lord, who is situated in their hearts, will lead them to the right path. He will take us out of the external energy and situate us in the internal potency. I said earlier that the external energy is presided over by Durga Devi. Her service is to keep us bound here. She places many illumines in front of us and we run after that, you know. Like take, for example, money. We run after making money. We run after, traveling in our cars, sitting in such long hours in traffic, and running after money, basically. And it is another analogy can be given is like exactly as a donkey that has a carrot dangling in front of him, and the further he runs, the further the carrot goes. Phantasmagoria, it's just a dream, right? Only when when he does, when he has done his job or carrying the heavy burden, the load on his back, does the boss give him the carrot at the end, So the donkey is like so stupid. He knows he can get grass everywhere and grass is growing under his feet, right? And he can just put his head down and eat the grass. But no, he will run after this carrot and, he'll carry heavy loads on his back. So similarly, we are running after this illusory things of this world, and we may inquire, what am I doing here? And what am I doing all this for? What is life meant for? When we come to that point, right? When we are done with all the illusory things and we come to this point and we start questioning like this, then we start having doubts, I'll just give you some of my personal accounts. I started to question my life from childhood, trying to make sense of this world. And I said, I'm just a child, Why do I have to go through all of this? I don't need this in my life. There has to be something more than this hard struggle for existence. And, I started to search, When I grew up, I started to search. Sure enough, the answers did come later on when I was a teenager by reading Srila Prabhupada's books. It gave me immense insight into everything I was looking for. I was searching and reading books by different authors, but I did not find what I was looking for, until and unless I picked up Srila Prabhupada's books. So that's when I was being introduced to the internal energy of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada is a representative of Srimati Radharani. And I said earlier on that Srimati Radharani is, in charge of this internal energy of the Lord. So Srimati Radharani wants every one of us to love Krishna, and the spiritual master wants the same. So Srila Prabhupada is a representative of Srimati Radharani. His father Gauramohan Dey, his desire was that Srila Prabhupada become a devotee of Srimati Radharani, and he would always pray like this, right? And we see that later on. And Prabhupada was, a devotee and of Srimati Radharani, and Krishna. So he traveled all over the world later on in his old age, and he gave everyone Radha and Krishna. We should all follow in his footsteps and do the same, right? There is no way we can repay our debt to Srila Prabhupada. The only way is to do what he did, preaching and distributing his books, and other methods as well in preaching, like Food for Life and so many other services one can engage in, in preaching. So in the Nectar of Devotion, there are 64 items of devotional service. And if one practices either of these items, which brings one immense benefit, then his path back home, back to Godhead is open. So we'll just go there now to Nectar of Devotion and try to recount some of these items. So this is on chapter 6, and excuse me, we see that Rupa Goswami is listing out these items, right? It's entitled How to Discharge Devotional Service. So Rupa Goswami states that his elder brother Sanatana Goswami has compiled Hari Bhakti Vilas for the guidance of the Vaishnavas, and therein has mentioned many rules and regulations to be followed by the Vaishnavas. Some of them are very important and prominent, and Srila Rupa Goswami will now mention these very important items for our benefit. The purport of this statement is that Srila Rupa Goswami proposes to mention only basic principles, not details. For example, a basic principle is that one has to accept a spiritual master. Exactly how one follows the instruction of the spiritual master is considered a detail. For example, if one is following the instruction of his spiritual master, and that instruction is different from the instructions of another spiritual master, that is called detailed information. But the basic principle is acceptance of his spiritual master is good everywhere. Although the details may be different, Srila Rupa Goswami does not wish to enter into the details here, but wants to place before us only the principles. So we'll just read the principles now. We won't go into the details of it. He mentions the basic principles as follows. Number 1, accepting the shelter of the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master. 2, becoming initiated by the spiritual master and learning how to discharge devotional service from him. 3, obeying the orders of the spiritual master with faith and devotion. 4, following in the footsteps of great acharya teachers under the direction of the spiritual master. 5, inquiring from the spiritual master how to advance in Krishna consciousness. 6, being prepared to give up anything material for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. This means that we are engaged in devotional service of Krishna. We must be prepared to give up something that we may not like to give up. And also, we have to accept something that we may not like to accept. 7, residing in a sacred place of pilgrimage like Dwarka and Vrindavan. 8, or the temples of ISKCON are basically replicas of the spiritual world, or of Dwarka and Vrindavan, because Radha and Krishna reside there, right? So they're not different. 8, accepting only what is necessary, or dealing with the material world as far as necessary. 9, observing the fasting days on Ekadasi. And 10, worshipping sacred trees like the banyan tree. So, these are just some of the 10 of the 64 items. We'll just read a few more maybe. Since we have time, we'll read a few more. Without following the above mentioned 10 principles, one cannot properly elevate himself to the platform of sadhana bhakti or devotional service in practice. Although Srila Rupa Goswami mentions 20 items, and all of them are very important, out of the 20, The first three, namely accepting the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, taking initiation from him and serving him with respect and reverence, are the most important. The next important items are as follows. One should decorate the body with tilak, which is a sign of a Vaishnava. The idea is that as soon as a person sees these marks on the body of a Vaishnava, he will immediately remember Krishna. Lord Chaitanya said that a Vaishnava is he who, when seen, reminds one of Krishna. Therefore, it is essential that a Vaishnava mark his body with tilak to remind others of Krishna. So this is also preaching. If you wear tilak and you go out, and people will be reminded of Krishna. Number two, in markings such as tilak, sometimes one may write Hare Krishna on the body. One should accept flowers and garlands that are being offered to the deity and the spiritual master and put them to one's body. One should learn to dance before the deity. One should learn to bow down immediately upon seeing the deity or the spiritual master. As soon as one visits a temple of the Lord, one must stand up. When the deity is being borne for a stroll in the street, the devotee should immediately follow the procession. In this connection, it may be noted that in India, especially in Vishnu temples, the system is that apart from the big deity, who is permanently situated in the main area of the temple, there is a set of smaller deities that are taken in procession in the evenings. In some temples, it is a custom to hold big processions in the evening with a band playing and a nice big umbrella over the deity, who sit on decorated thrones on the cart or palanquin, which is carried by the devotees. The deities come onto the street and travel in the neighborhood, while the people of the neighborhood come to offer prasad. The residents of the neighborhood all follow the procession, so it is very nice scene. When the deity is coming out, the servitors in the temple put forward the daily accounts before them. So much was the collection, so much was the expenditure. The whole idea is that the deity is considered to be the proprietor of the whole establishment, and all the priests and other people taking care of the temple are considered to be servants of the deity. This system is very, very old and is still followed. So therefore, it is mentioned here that when the deity is on stroll, the people should follow behind. 8, a devotee must visit a temple of Vishnu at least once or twice daily, morning and evening. In Vrindavan, the system is followed very strictly. All the devotees in town go every morning and evening to visit different temples. Therefore, during these times, there are considerable large crowds all over the city. There are about 5,000 temples in Vrindavan city. Of course, it is not possible to visit all the temples, but there are at least 12 very big and important temples which were started by the Goswamis and which should be visited. So it's 7:30. Maybe I'll just read. I'll just read this whole chapter. It's I'm halfway, actually 3/4 way. So let's just go on. 9, one must circumambulate the temple building at least 3 times. In every temple, there is an arrangement to go around the temple at least 3 times. Some devotees go around more than 3 times, 10 times, 15 times, according to their vows. The Goswamis used to circumambulate Govardhan Hill. One should also circumambulate the whole Vrindavan area. One must worship the deity in the temple according to the regulative principles, offering arati and prasad, decorating the deities, etc. These things must be observed regularly. One must render personal service to the deity. One must sing. One must perform sankirtan. One must chant. One must offer prayers. One must recite notable prayers. One must taste the Mahaprasad food from the very plate offered before the deities. One must drink charanamrit, water from the bathing of the deities, which is offered to guests. One must smell the incense of flowers offered to the deity. One must touch the lotus feet of the deity. One must see the deity and with great devotion. One must offer artik at different times. One must hear about the Lord and his pastimes from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and similar books. One must pray to the deity for his mercy. 25, one must remember the deity. 26, one must meditate upon the deity. 27, one must render some voluntary service. One should think of the Lord as a friend. One should offer everything to the Lord. One should offer a favorite article, such as a food or a garment. One should take all kinds of risks and perform all endeavors for Krishna's benefit. In every condition, one should be a surrendered soul. One should pour water on the tulsi tree. One should regularly hear Srimad Bhagavatam and similar literature. One should live in a sacred place like Mathura, Vrindavan, Dwarka. One should offer service to the Vaishnavas, devotees. One should arrange one's devotional service according to one's means. In the month of Kartik, October, November, one should make arrangements for special services. During Janmashtami, the time of Krishna's appearance in this world, one should observe a special service. One should do whatever is done with great care and devotion for the deity. One should relish the pleasure of Bhagavatam reading among devotees and not among outsiders. One should associate with devotees who are considered more advanced. One should chant the holy names of the Lord. One should live in the jurisdiction of Mathura. Now, the total regulative principles come to an aggregate of 64 items. As we have mentioned, the first are the primary 10 regulative principles. Then comes the secondary 10 regulative principles, and added to these are the 44 other activities. So altogether, these 64 items for discharging the regulative practice of devotional service. Out of these 64 items, 5 items, namely worshipping the deity, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, associating among the devotees, Sankirtan, and living in Mathura, are very important. The 64 items of devotional service should include all of our activities of body, mind, and speech. As stated in the beginning, the regulative principles of devotional service enjoins that all of our senses must be employed in the service of the Lord. Exactly how they can be thus employed is described in the above 64 items. Now, Srila Rupa Goswami will give evidence from different scriptures supporting the authenticity of many of these points. So, dear devotees, that comes the end of this chapter, and I hope you were reminded of all these things that we basically perform on a daily basis or whenever we come to the temple. So I will stop there, and we'll take any comments or questions you may have. We'll try to engage and in Krishna Katha. So anyone would like to say anything?
Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful class. Maharaj, you highlighted on the different types of devotional service that we can engage in, and we're fortunate to be in association of devotees. Now with the difficulties in meeting each other, we're fortunate we have online, so we're taking advantage, and we're using our energy in Krishna service by hearing. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for all the enlightenment you're giving us.
Hi, Krishna, thank you. Yes, actually, engaging in Krishna Katha or hearing about the glories of Krishna is very, very important as well. And, so Prabhu, thank you so much for this online classes that we can actually engage like this and help each other in our devotional practices. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Anyone else? Do we have Jai and Vijay? Wow. So who would like to go first, Jai or Vijay? Come, Prabhus, let's hear something from you. Enlighten us.
Hey, Krishna, you may unmute, please, so we can hear you. Thank you.
Or maybe they try to speak. What we'll do now, it will have
Vijay says he has mic issues.
Okay, no problem. We'll do this little kirtan and we'll end. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jai Jai Prabhupada 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 Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Do Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. Govinande Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna devotees.